Texas A&M hosting Mississippi State. The line has Texas A&M, Chris, 16 and a half. Over under is at 55 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So a big game in College Station. Mississippi State coming to town. Look, we know what happened to the Bulldogs last weekend against Tennessee, losing that heartbreaking game against the Volunteers. Almost had Tennessee, but Joey Aguilar and company found a way to squeeze out of Starville with a victory. And
Mm-hmm.
hey, this team, Chris, like we had talked about it last week, and like we've been talking about it, of course. Just in the background, this team's for real. This is a way better Mississippi State football club than a lot of people had anticipated. And a lot of people, I mean, the SEC media days, a lot of people in the media were already counting Mississippi State dead last in the league. So this year, they're 4-1, going to College Station. Blake Shapen, he's been getting sacked a lot, as far as we know right now. In the injury report, which is why this line right now is at 16 and a half. Albert Reese, their left tackle, he's going to be out of this game, and right now, as far as I've heard, is that Brendan Thompson and a few other people. Brendan Thompson, their star wide receiver, he's probable. So Brendan Thompson probable. Albert Reese is questionable. Last thing I heard. So overall, that's
And
a little bit.
I want to say Smith as well at safety.
Yeah, Isaac Smith is.
Isaac Smith.
I think he is. I think he's probable as well. Last time I saw on the depth chart. So you got your star players. One guy on the line, one guy on your offense, and one guy on your defense. It's your defensive leader. One of them. Potentially not going to play in this game. That's a bummer if you're a Mississippi State Bulldog fan heading into this game against A&M, who's, for the most part, they've started to find themselves, Chris. They've started to gel. You see the offense making plays. You got Mario Craver, a guy that used to be at Mississippi State last year, making
Mm-hmm.
plays for the Aggies. Casey
Mm-hmm.
Concepcion, he's starting to come into his own. So, A&M with a little 1-2 punch with KC and Mario out there in College Station. So, you have those guys. We can already, talk about, how Le'Veon Moss has been for A&M. Just a stud at the running back position. Been very, very good for the Aggies these last couple of years. This is an interesting ball game, Chris, and just in terms of their defense, they've played well. They've started to gel and become a better defense. And Mike Elko being a defensive coach, that's what he wants out of his squad. So far, A&M has been playing some really good football. If I had to put a score on it, I'd say A&M has the potential to win this ball game. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily just say clear cut after what I've seen from Mississippi State that it's going to be a mauling, but you do have some guys out for the most part, so that doesn't really bode well for Mississippi State. But if you're A&M, you can take advantage of that, and that's why if I had to put a score on it, I'm going to say A&M wins this game 35 to 21. I think they'll eventually run away with it in the fourth quarter and potentially keep the winning going over there at A&M. At that point, they'll be 5-0, riding high. So, overall, Chris,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts about this game?
Interesting game. I'm curious to see where Mississippi State's mental is at after a game that you, quite frankly, feel like you should have won. Shouldn't even have gone to OT. But the offensive line play reared its ugly head and created a play in a wild sequence after you convert a fake punt. You turn around next play, give up a sack that leads to a scoop and score fumble for Tennessee. Changed the whole game. Um, Outside of that, though, you Mississippi State, you feel like, man, we had that one. And so I'm curious to see how resilient this team is. Will be tough going into an environment like the 12th man, but kind of fortunately, A&M has shown that they can struggle in offense too. Was an ugly win against Auburn. A lot of work to be done, and they didn't have the explosives. Wasn't the high scoring game. And if there's anything that Mississippi State can do when the blocking is right, it's create the explosives. And I feel like in this one, we have learned how big of a playmaker Fluff Brothwell is. And if Mississippi State can get the running game going, that's only going to help this offensive line even more in creating those explosives. And there's a chance you can get some plays over the top. And if that's the case, and now you put the pressure on A&M and Marcel Reed to execute, it's gonna be quite the interesting game. I feel like Mississippi State can play with A&M. I struggle to pick State to win just because I don't know if they are built to win on the road in a game like this yet. And this is their chance to prove that they can. I'm going to say A&M wins. A tight one, 27-24. I think Mississippi State will give the Aggies problems, quite possibly draw blood first and get ahead to start the game. But I'm gonna give A&M the benefit of the doubt at home, and that they find a way to get another victory. But State will continue to prove just how improved this team is, and that they are a tough out for everybody in the conference.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely in the ballpark with where you're at, partner. I think overall A&M coming into this game is going to be the better team, better squad. But I won't count out Mississippi State to definitely showcase some weaknesses that maybe A&M still needs to clean up as the season progresses. And look, I think I've heard a lot of people this week talk about where A&M is at in terms of team wise, how they've improved, and they have improved. But do they have all the kinks out yet? I don't think they do. I do think that there's still a little bit of shakiness with this A&M squad being 4-0 right now. Even that they're still not where they would like to be. I think you're still going to see that in this ball,
especially defensively.
Yes, yeah, like they're not all the way elite with their secondary. There is a little bit of leaks there. There's some cracks, and hey, if you're Mississippi State, I'm sure if you're Jeff Lebby, you would love to have a healthy Brendan Thompson in this game. And who knows? He may actually play in this game if he's ready. I mean, he's probable. Sometimes guys that are probable end up getting the start. So, if you're A&M right now, you're trying to kind of navigate through that and anticipate probably if the guy plays, if you see a Brendan Thompson out there, that secondary is going to have to be prepared for that. Are they? We'll see. We'll see what happens. you know who you have to play, who's healthy, but you're also running against the depth chart as well, Chris.
Yeah,
that's how it is.
yeah, no, definitely. And I think I'll say this: if Mississippi State wins, You definitely hit some explosives, Kory. But I feel like the X factor, the player that will continue to be beloved by Bulldog fans more and more is Fluff.
Yeah.
Fluff will if State wins, he probably had 23 carries, 140 yards, and a TD or two. Like he dominated the line of scrimmage and was getting yards and made it possible for those explosives to happen because they had to respect what this running attack was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a player I'm keeping my eyes on to really be an impact in this game. And also for A&M, Mario Craver. It's a revenge game going up against his old team. So I'm sure A&M will have him schemed up to try to make some big plays in this one. The State secondary has been really pretty solid, really good this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to see how that matchup looks. You know, you had your struggles against some of those big body guys at Tennessee. These receivers are different. These aren't big body receivers at A&M. So I'm wondering how this matchup will work against Mississippi State secondary. So there's a lot to look at in this one.
It is. I think that's what makes this game so interesting. Is that even with the injuries, you still have some guys on this Mississippi State squad that are like they're definitely game changers as opposed to what you had last year. You know, you just had a bunch of guys, but you know they weren't playing team football last season. This team, you got a bevy of guys now. You got Manning out there. Hunter Washington's been playing some really good football right now. You know, it's interesting to see how this team has been performing. Hey, you got true freshman Tyler Lockhart out there, linebacker, making some plays. So it's just a bevy of players out there that are definitely making plays for their defense for Mississippi State. So it's going to be interesting to see how Levy and especially Coleman Hustler, defensive coordinator, how he draws up some plays to potentially try to knock Marcel Reed off of his routes. As he's back there trying to get downfield for the Aggies. So yeah, I'm excited about this ball game. I think A&M definitely has a little bit more in the tank, but I think if you're Mississippi State, you're still trying to grow. You're still trying to find some guys and keep these guys upbeat and prepare each and every week. That way that they're not quitting on you. And I think Levy has a really good squad this year that's not going to quit on them. That's why I'm very high about this football team this year, Chris. You and I.
Agreed.
So, yeah. Well, yeah, man, we'll definitely see what happens with this game. Should be a fun one still. Even with A&M having all of the players. So it's definitely going to be interesting to talk about this game on Sunday.